Welcome to another trip down the Bourbon Road with your hosts, Jim and Mike. So grab a glass of your favorite bourbon and kick back.
We would like to thank our friends at Premium Bar Products for sponsoring this episode. If you're ready to step up your game at your home bar, check out PremiumBarProducts.com to choose from their wide selection of glassware, all of which can be custom engraved with your personal message or logo. And there's no minimum order. So after the episode, head over to PremiumBarProducts.com and check out everything they have to offer. Now, let's get on with the show. Hello, everybody. I'm Jim Shannon.
And I'm Mike Hyatt.
And this is the Bourbon Road. And today, Mike, we got all kinds of roadies in the house.
We do. We got a plethora of people in here.
Pretty special show.
150th episode.
150. So the Bourbon Road is 150.
Well, not 150 years old. Or is our age together 150?
I don't know. I think a podcast is measured in episodes, not years.
Episodes.
Right?
We're 150th episodes deep. We got two roadies on today, though.
Yeah.
We got Mr. Todd Ritter. He lives in Frankfort, Kentucky. And then we got a big 7, Matt Simons. He used to play on the Louisville basketball team.
Uh-huh.
That's the University of Louisville, for everybody who don't know. And he is 7 foot.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's not a short fella.
He makes Big Chief look like a little chief.
You're still Big Chief, but you're not the biggest man in the room right now.
No, he's a humongous man. He's sitting in, we got tall chairs at our table and stuff. He makes it look like a regular chair.
Yeah. All right. So what do we got going on today, Mike?
So it's our 150th show. Todd came up with this great idea to drink 150th Old Forester. A great bourbon, celebrate our 150th show. I think that was perfect. But to kind of fill up the show too, we're going to talk about what 5 bourbons would you start your bar at? Meaning if you wasn't into bourbon before and you wanted just to create your own bar, what 5 bourbons would you buy? Each 4 of us have a list of 5 bourbons that we're going to talk about that we would start our bars with. Each person kind of has a different idea of how they would start their bar, a different budget and stuff. We've all come at it from a different angle, and that's how we're going to go about it.
All right. Sounds great. So as usual, we would like to get straight to the whiskey, and this is not just this bottle is just not readily available.
Well, I don't know. Is it readily available, Todd?
I haven't seen it out in the wild in quite some time. I got lucky and snagged one at the Kroger in Frankfurt. So
before we dip into it, why don't you give us the basics on it, Todd?
This is batch 3. There were 3 batches released with this 150th anniversary from Old Forester. And this particular one, I don't know the year, how long it's been aged, but the mash bill was 72 corn, 18 rye, and 10 barley.
Okay.
And it's came in at 126.8 proof.
So it's got some heat there, huh?
It's a little warm.
All right.
10 barley. I like 11 barley. I mean, personally.
Yeah. So 150 stands for what?
Their anniversary. I guess the Old Forester label has been around for 150 years.
150 years of making whiskey.
Yeah.
1870 to 2020.
So they've been around a little longer than the podcast, but 150, that's how I kind of tied it together.
I think it's all the same, Mike. It's just all the same. We're 150. Old Forester's 150.
On the next episode, will you guys be drinking some 151 from McCarty?
Well, it might be. We're going to be down in Mexico.
That's true. All right. So what do you say, guys? Let's check out this Old Forester 150.
Sounds
Let's
good.
do it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Man, that's got a super oaky nose on it. Some chocolates in there.
Yep.
Very rich. Very got a little bit of sweetness on the nose too, but the oak is way there.
Now, I've never said this note before on a show. I know I haven't, but a little bit of coffee bean on this one.
Really?
I can get that. It's got a bit of darkness to it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got a dark character to it. It feels charred.
And the color of the liquid's nice and dark as well.
Nice and dark, yeah.
Yeah, this is I would call this a deep amber or a mahogany, huh?
Now, these are the largest pours I think I've ever been on the Bourbon Road.
Well, it's not your bottle, so you went heavy-handed. It's okay.
Well, we are
I'm kidding.
drinking one bourbon this show.
One bourbon.
One
yeah,
bourbon.
yeah.
So we needed that. We need to have enough to get us through the show.
What do you get, Todd?
You know,
How do you get this?
well, I always go with kiss and hug, just as a starter. And on the kiss, man, I mean, it's peppery, not heavily, but there's some pepper in the mouth. So it's not a light front end, it's nice. And then it lasts, I've heard greater bourbon minds than me say, how long does it sit in your mouth? And it's still sitting there, It's got a nice, really nice palate to it. You obviously are getting some caramel, some oak, but not overpowering on the sweet side. I would call this, hold on, let me take another sip.
Well, heck, let's all take a sip. Cheers.
Cheers.
That's good whiskey.
Yeah, it is.
That thing says, "Pow!" Just kicked your tongue back in your throat.
Yeah, it is. And,
Huge oak presence on this.
Yeah.
And it's got a little bit of hot pepper spice to it. Not just pepper, not black pepper, but hot pepper spice.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, thank you.
This is the Chuck Norris of whiskey.
Yeah. I get that chocolate on this. And one thing you guys didn't catch on the nose that I don't know, maybe it's just an Old Forester thing for me, but I get a little banana.
I do get that in some other Old Foresters, so it's funny you mentioned that.
Just a little.
Heavy ripened banana?
Yeah, like a sweet banana rather than like green.
I'd rather have a green banana.
Yeah, the ethanol is kind of playing with my nose a little bit.
Yeah,
it's making it a little bit more difficult for me. So you've actually, Todd, you've been sipping on this bottle a little bit longer than us. Have you noticed it change?
Yeah, actually the banana presence is a little lighter, I think. I mean, like I said, we just opened this up and popped in the glass. It may need a little time to sit, but that's one of those I've also shared with a lot of the roadies too. So
yeah, good deal.
Yeah.
Todd, I think that's a great, way to notice that it's real slight.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's in there for sure.
It's deep, it's dark, it's rich, it's spicy.
It's spicy. Yeah.
It is. I don't know the age on this, Mike, but it tastes to me like it's up there a bit.
I wouldn't call it, people get confused sometimes with spicy and hot. Hot is when it's young, it has that hot flavor. It's not hot. It's peppery. It's good.
To me, this would be if you got one of those cinnamon jawbreakers that's super like atomic jawbreaker. It does have a lot of sweet spice to it. It's not that overly burning taste. And then it gets down there to that hug. It's got a nice Kentucky hug on this.
It has a very nice hug.
Oh yeah.
Very
the chest
beautiful
is warm and full of fuzzy
So what do you guys think
feelings.
about the finish on it? I mean, what do you think about the flavor of the finish?
Gets a little I get a little more chocolate towards that end to myself, and then that oak just is it's a very oaky bourbon to me.
It's sitting in the top of the roof of my mouth, because I didn't swish it, but like I kind of moved it around a little bit, and I can feel that pepper just kind of tingling the top of my mouth.
The only thing I'd knock on this entire bourbon right here, and not really the bourbon itself, is the bottle. Old Forester's known for their clear bottles that you could see the whiskey, and they put it in a brown bottle. That would be the only knock on it.
Yeah, so they're kind of hiding the look at it until after you open the bottle.
Yeah,
Nothing to hide there. It's beautiful.
Yeah, why not showcase that dark brown liquid?
I got a question for you. With beers, sometimes I put them in the darker bottles because light will, change the profile of the beer. And in fact, in our grandfather's times, or maybe in our father's times, bottled beer was the best and canned beer was junk. But really, a lot of the great, brewers now are putting their good beers in cans because it keeps the light out, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything to that with bourbon?
That is the exact thing about bourbon is you want that light. If you have a bar at home and it's out in the light, your bourbon's going to ruin a little bit faster.
Well, you may be onto something there because, with a bottle like the 150th, this is a bottle that you bring out from time to time, a little bit to your friends to taste on and talk about, and it goes back up on the shelf. It might not come out again for a couple months. Maybe they had that in mind. This is a bourbon that's going to last on some of these bars for a couple of years. We need to make sure it stays Good.
Based on the
unless
pours
you're
we
like
just,
Todd.
yeah, I was gonna say, based on the pours we just had, Todd's bottle's not gonna last much longer.
No, that's all right. We're
Turning
celebrating,
red,
right?
You're turning red over there, Todd. You're
No,
like,
I'm
God
fine.
dang, people drinking my whiskey.
It's quite all right. This is what the Roadies are about, sharing, and that's what I like about this group.
Well, let's talk about your 5 whiskeys, and we're going to start with your side of the room over there, Todd and Jim, at the first half of the show, and then on the second half, me and Matt will talk about ours.
Okay.
So, Todd, we're going to start with you with your top 5 bourbons, or your 5 bourbons that you would start your bar with.
All right. Is there
And the reason why.
anybody give me a drum roll or anything?
I give you a drum roll.
right.
Just to tell us kind of what you were thinking.
Well, when Mike brought this up, I really poured over this. Like, there's so many ways you can go through this and come up with 5 bourbons, 5 bottles. So, I started off with like the mixer, and I kind of went with Evan Williams, and you could go the low proof or the bond in there. Nice price, nice bourbon. Then I'm from Frankfurt, so I got to give love to my Buffalo Trace. That was my everyday. It plays well with anything if you wanted to mix it. It also, I think it's a nice, neat drink as well.
Oh, hold on. Don't go too fast now. Don't go too fast. I want to stop there. I think Buffalo Trace, for the price, is a tremendous bourbon. I think it has a lot of floral character to it. And for lack of a better term, it really opens up on the palate. And for the price, man, Buffalo Trace is a solid bourbon.
Now, that's what I tell you about Buffalo Trace is we, in here in Kentucky, we think it's easy to find. But whenever you go to other states, let's say like Oklahoma that I just came back from, they were like, yeah, could you get me any of that Buffalo Trace stuff? We can't even get it here. And when they do have it, it's like $60 a bottle.
I was like, yeah, I can get it at convenient.
Yeah, but they got antique on the shelf.
Yeah.
I've also seen it out at shelves in Frankfurt itself. I mean, I've been to stores in Frankfurt and they'd be totally out of Buffalo Trace, but hopefully that'll change. I mean, if anyone's been to Frankfurt lately and seen the warehouses going up there, like nobody's business, it's hopefully they'll be able to maintain a little better inventory.
All right, so let's recap for you so far. So you've got Evan Williams.
Evan Williams is kind of my mixer, and for mixed drinks and
All right.
your parties. Buffalo Trace is my everyday. And then thanks to you guys and a lot of other podcasts and YouTubers out there, it's really brought forth that not all great bourbon comes from Kentucky. So I kind of went, my third one was kind of outside the box. So I didn't really come up with one because I like a lot of out-of-state bourbons. And so I came up with like Frey Ranch, Leaper's Fork, Iron Root. I mean, there's just a list, but
Hey, Todd,
something from out of state where most, like if my friends come over that they probably don't know much about, and they're like, "Hey,
You can only have
this
one,
bourbon?"
Todd. You can't have 50.
I know.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but like, can you tell us where some of those are from? Like the ones you mentioned?
Well, obviously Leaper's Fork is in Tennessee. Iron Root is in Texas. Another big favorite of mine is Spirits of French Lick in Indiana.
I've had some of their stuff. That's good.
And Frey Ranch is out in Nevada, and I'm a big Frey Ranch.
Yeah, you got some Frey Ranch fans in the house, no doubt about that. But let me ask you this. So your third one is an out of state, represents sort of the craft distilleries that are out of state, but we're still going to make you pick one.
Oh,
Because it's 5 bourbons to start your bar with. You're going to have to pick one of those. I love it that you mentioned them all, but we're going to put you on the spot.
okay. I'm going to go with Frey Ranch.
Okay, good deal.
Beautiful bottle.
I kind of saw that coming, to be honest with you.
What else you got, Todd?
For my fourth, I went with a high proofer, and it's hard to beat Elijah Craig, the barrel proof. I haven't found the latest bottle, but it's usually pretty easy to find.
I've got to modify my list now.
His list is actively changing as you speak.
And right, maybe everybody says. And then my last one was something for like special occasions. And this 150th fits that bill.
Okay.
I mean, if you're lucky enough to run across an antique collection, that'd be a great one to have as a special bottle. But
Got it. So you've got, again, I'm going to keep recapping here because I'm going to kind of drive these decisions home. So we got Evan Williams as your mixer. We've got Buffalo Trace as your everyday sipper / mixer / whatever.
Right.
General purpose bourbon.
Right.
You've got Craft Distillery Bourbon as number 3. You chose Frey Ranch.
Frey Ranch.
Good choice. No doubt about it. Number 4 was?
Number 4 was the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof.
Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. Always a winner in my book.
Oh, man, it's such a good bourbon.
So complex.
Yeah.
Just layer after layer after layer of different notes. You let it set for a while. You come back to it. It could be totally different. Every expression they put out, they haven't missed the box on one of them yet.
Yeah.
No.
And it's always a little different. I mean, there's, very slight nuances. I know the latest one is a lower proof. Their stuff tends to be in that 130s, and this latest one's like, I think 127, and it's nice. I've had a pour, but it's
a 12-year-old bourbon, too.
Right.
So,
and the price for a 12-year-old bourbon, it's hard not to beat that. And then my last one was the Something Special, and
Old Forester 150.
We are having it.
Yeah. What's the price on this bottle?
that was 150.
150.
I have a friend, so I got it at that's MSRP.
Well,
so
good deal. All right. So great choices. I think that's a respectable list. I would have that to start a bar any day. No doubt.
Thank you.
Well, Jim, let's hear your kicking chicken list.
I'm excited about this list because, Jim is the bourbon man. So I really want hold on. Let me get that so you can edit that out. The bourbon man. The bourbon.
It's going to be 5 Ryes, right?
No, it's not going to be 5 Ryes because, Mike said 5 bourbons to start your bar with, but there's no way that I'm going to come in with a list that doesn't have at least 1 rye on it.
Rye whiskey we're talking about.
Rye whiskey, not rye bourbon. Yes. So my thinking was, okay, somebody wants to start a bar, kind of new at it, don't have a lot of money to throw around. My list is 5 bourbons that you can start your bar with $200 or less. Okay. And I wanted to make sure that I represented as many distilleries as possible, 5 in that list. And I wanted to make sure there was at least 1 rye in there. And then I hit a few categories within that. So kind of just a general purpose, good list. There won't be any unicorns in this one.
No unicorns.
Not for under 200 for 5. So,
all right, let's hear it.
All right. So number 1 on my list, Larceny.
Oh, I have to say, I couldn't remember the 5th bourbon that was in the pack that I had gotten recently for a corporate event. It was Larceny. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't drank a lot of that before, Jim. That's a good bourbon.
Yeah, I think
it's a nice, good, off the shelf bourbon.
That actually won our What Makes Coke Taste Better challenge.
Yeah, that's right. When we stepped out on a limb and did bourbon and Cokes and took a lot of flack for it.
Upset the bourbon nerds out there.
We did. But a lot of people drink bourbon and Coke. And
I think the majority of people that are introduced to bourbon are through bourbon and Coke. I mean, if you're at a UK or U of L football game, typically people aren't nosing bourbon in the parking lot. They're drinking bourbon and Coke.
Exactly.
Here you go, pal. Have one.
Bourbon and L81.
Hey, we should do a bourbon and L81 show. We'd be up all night, by the way.
And if you're starting a bar because you want people to come over. And some of those people that come over are going to want Coke in their bourbon. Sorry to say.
Unfortunately, they are.
They are. So Larceny at $24, straight or mixed, 92 proof. You can actually sip Larceny, and it's a good sipper. I mean, and it's a weeder, right, Mike?
Yep,
it is.
It's all weeded up.
Yeah, I love it.
All right, number 2. This one satisfies my rye, so I'm choosing Old Forester rye. It's a $20 bottle for $7.50. Great for cocktails. So again, if you've got a bar at home, you're going to have people over. Some people are going to want cocktails. So if you're serving up mules or you're serving up old fashions,
yeah.
Old Forester at 100 proof on the rye, it's going to shine through a little bit. It's a good rye to choose. Not the best rye out there, but all around good, solid Kentucky rye.
It's funny you mentioned that because I've had some people that, what do the kids say now? They felt some kind of way about Old Forester rye. And those are usually Old Forester heads. And they're out there, because Old Forester's great bourbon. Mm-hmm. And so I've had some Old Forester heads be like, the rye, it's pretty good. But, I think it is good. Yeah. I think it's, for what your list is trying to do, perfect.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And, if you like to sip on a Kentucky rye, you can sip on that one. Not my choice typically. I'll probably go for something like a rare breed rye or something like that, but it's good.
Michter's rye.
Absolutely. Number 3 on my list, and now you're going to see this one coming. Wild Turkey 101. Wild Turkey 101. If you want a bourbon that's got a little bit of spice to it, again, something you can drink straight. You can add something else. You can mix it. You can make cocktails with it. But for me, I've been drinking Wild Turkey 101 for 40 years. Yes, I've been drinking age for 40 years.
Started when he was 6.
But Wild Turkey has been on the list for a lot of years for me. And so it's always in my bar, and I've always got a bottle of it. And you know what? It's a great conversation piece when people are going, you drink that Wild Turkey stuff? And you go, haven't you? Well, no, that's for bikers and roughnecks. No.
Well, they're probably drinking it wrong too. As a lot of people like to do is they just like shoot that whiskey back. We were in a bar the other night. They pulled a really nice whiskey off the shelf. I'm not going to say where me and Jim were, but they pulled the whiskey off the shelf. They poured it in shot glasses and shot it back. And I'd say that bottle goes for about $100. Hey, your whiskey your way, your bourbon your way, drink it any way that you damn want to. But I'll tell you, on a good bourbon like that, you should really take and get a whiskey glass and sit there and sip it and try to enjoy it a little bit. You might enjoy Wild Turkey like Jim does. I actually enjoy Wild Turkey. It's a good bourbon, good starter bourbon for people too. It's not too hot. It's got that little bit of spice you like to it. Mm-hmm. Hey, a well-respected bourbon. Jimmy Russell's been around a long time. He knows what he's doing. And we actually heard the story. I've heard a story about how when they sold, they said the only thing you can't do is change the whiskey. You can do anything else, but don't change the whiskey. Let Jimmy do his thing. The whiskey is what it is.
Yeah.
Well, Big Chief, when we talk about the just essentials of life, just the basic core necessities, I think consummation of a relationship, let's say, would be one of those. Do you want to rush through it, shoot it back, or do you want to take your time and enjoy it? And I would say your advice is well saged and earned. You should enjoy that whiskey.
Well, a younger man might rush down there and take care of it, but when you get at our age,
what do they say, the daddy bull and the baby bull?
Yeah, 3 bulls, right?
Yeah,
one's going to run down
there and get them all.
One's going to jog. And
the other one said, let's walk down and get them all.
Yeah.
All right. So, Wild Turkey 101. And that's a $20 bottle. So we got a $24 bottle in Larceny. We got a $20 bottle Old Forester Rye. We got a $20 bottle Wild Turkey.
You ain't even $100 yet, Jim.
Yeah, we're not even $100 yet. And we got 3 good bottles of whiskey.
Yeah.
So number 4 for me is Woodford Double Oaked.
Nice.
I'm revising my list again.
That proof is in the pudding in that Woodford Double Oak stuff. We had, I think it was last Christmas, we did a show. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was last New Year's Eve. We did a blind bottle challenge, and I took that, and it whooped everybody's ass. Everybody was shocked at it, right?
That's right.
It whooped 3 other bourbons' ass that I was like, I can't believe it beat all those.
Totally blind.
Totally
Can we say
blind.
ass?
We can say bourbon bullshitter and pretty ass.
Okay. Well, a little preview to my list, Jim. I thought my own stuff, but I said, you know what? I'm going to put some stuff out to friends and just see what they say. Rob Carter, Dr. LeGrand, some different folks.
Your 2 friends.
Dr. Stapleton.
Your 2 friends you got.
Yeah. Different ones that, that I drink bourbon with. Todd Guttermuth, Brent Whitehouse. And almost unanimously on their 5 came back double oaked. Not totally unanimously, because Rob, of course, went with some like, oh, well, they're new, starting a bar. They probably don't have any money. So they, here's a bunch of rot gut. No, I'm just kidding. He didn't say that. Rob's here, by the way. But double oaked came up every time. And I brought a bottle of it tonight for us to all just have a pour while I'm doing my list, I guess.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Because I guess it's going to be on there. But go ahead.
Absolutely. So the reason I chose the double oaked is because of the sweetness and because the fact that I think that we talked about this earlier, it's kind of dessert, right?
Yeah.
You have it before dinner. You can have it after dinner. It's great with a charcuterie tray. It's great with chocolates or whatever. I mean, it's so versatile. but it's that special sipping whiskey that it's a good pairing whiskey.
I think also you can introduce it to people. You're talking about this guy, the gal that we're talking about is starting a bar. Mm-hmm. You could introduce it to someone who's like, bourbon. I don't drink a lot of bourbon. And you could pour that and they'd be like, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I like that. That tastes good.
Absolutely. And a lot of people have heard of Woodford. Woodford to them seems to be a little bit premium. So if you pull out the Woodford for your guests, they're going to be pretty happy, right? So I think that's a good choice. And at $45.
Uh-oh, we're over 100 now.
Yeah, we're over 100, but not much.
Yeah,
we're 100. And number five, Booker's. And Booker's, I chose Booker's because I wanted to have something that was barrel proof, something that was bold, and it comes in a box. Great display, right?
I think it's an ugly box, but
it is blasphemy.
It is the ugliest box out there. I just, me and Jim talked about that. It's no surprise to Jim I would say that. But
hey, remember when Indiana Jones went in and to pick the Jesus's cup?
Yeah.
Remember all those beautiful glasses? And then there was the carpenter's clay cup that had the fruit of life in it. Booker's is just wood and Booker's.
And some Crayola.
Aren't Booker's boxes made from the floorboards that Noah has walked on or something like that? Or Booker walked on the floorboards of the Rick House and he used those to make there's some story like that.
That's the first I've heard of that.
Bourbon bullshitter. There's the old bourbon bullshitter coming out.
All right.
Well, that's a respectable list, Jim. A great list.
Can I tell you a story about Booker's, if you don't mind? And I'm going to edit this story because it was a wild one. I ran into an old buddy when we were in our late 20s, and we thought we were kind of through all of our wild stuff. But I ran into him one night, and we got into some wild stuff. Long story short, this guy is an absolute clown. And he liked bourbon, and he loved bourbon. He drank bourbon to extremes, to where you shouldn't go to. Eventually, I go to bed. And I'm with my woman in the bed there, and I hear him in the other room. And my nickname in high school was Sambo. And I hear him, Sambo! And I walk in the other room. And this was, remember when the internet first came out? This was like 2000, 2001.
Back when
Yeah,
you got
dial up. I had a gateway computer. He's buck naked, sitting on my grandmother's chair in front of the gateway computer, and there's error messages cascaded in a tornado. And he looks at me dead serious, goes, how you get naked pictures on this computer? Now, that's not the end of the story because we're tying Booker's in here. I go back to bed and I forcefully tell him, if you wake me up one more time, we're going to have problems, house. He doesn't wake me up anymore. And so the next day, at 7 a.m. when I had to go to work, I go in there and I see his eyes are just fluttering shut. And I go, Big Squirrel! That was his nickname. And I wake him up and I'm like, I got to go to work and I'm taking you home. So I take him home. I go to work. I come back and it's one of them long days when you've been drinking some bourbon with your buddy and you go to work all day. And I come back and I'm living in the house I grew up in. I bought it from my mom and I'm living there. And there were still some artifacts from where I grew up. And my father, my stepfather, Tom Bemis, owned Lansdowne Wine and Liquors and Big Daddy's Liquors, which is still in existence on UK's campus in Lexington, Kentucky. So I grew up around liquor stores. And he had a first run bottle of Booker's in the wood box. It was on the top shelf, never been opened, with the black wax on the top. And I'm walking through there and I'm just cleaning up and stuff. And I look up and that box is cracked open about 3/4 of an inch and the little tissue paper sticking out. That box has not been cracked open since 1981 or whatever he got that. You know what I'm saying? Since my remembrance. And I grab it with hesitancy and I look at it and I'm like, what's going on here? And I slide the wood facing open to notice no liquid. There was 1 inch of Booker's in the bottom of that bottle. And when I went to bed after the naked pictures part, this feller went in there and drank my daddy's first run bottle of Booker's.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, so moving on.
All right. So to summarize, I've got 5 whiskeys that I chose here, and the total price for the whole set, $194.
Wow.
Now those are total wine prices, so pretty much should hold true across most of the country, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jim, we're up against the first half right here. 2 great lists that you guys brought. Todd, super respectable list, starts bar. Jim went classic, old school,
Classic.
economical right there. Jim would have all 5 of those drink. I should have gave him 7 days for 1 day of the week. Jim would have it bar cleared out in about a week. He'd be like, I'm done, Mike. Mike, got that bottle cleared out? No, I'm just joking there, buddy.
Somebody's got to drink all these bottles we get.
Yeah. We're on the first half. We'll be right back, listeners, for a second half, and me and Matt will name our 5 bourbons out.
Let's do it. Well, you can't drink whiskey without glassware, and Mike and I are extremely pleased to have a sponsor like Premium Bar Products. Premium Bar Products offers direct-to-consumer the finest whiskey glasses, cocktail glasses, and bar tools with your own personal engraving. I mean, you can write anything you want on these glasses, anything from a company logo to a personal statement, and there are no minimum orders. Their direct consumer platform offers you the opportunity to purchase small quantities of your favorite glass shapes that enhance the pleasure of enjoyment and drinking a whiskey and make it all very positive. They offer the absolute finest trending and handmade glasses, as well as a comprehensive range of styles, and all of their items have been designed with purpose, practicality, and longevity in mind. So if you're a bourbon or whiskey group and you need custom logos, you need to reach out to Premium Bar Products. If you're an individual, you just want a few for your bar to impress your friends, to give out as gifts, you need to call Premium Bar Products. They need to be your one and only source for custom glassware. I can tell you right now, the Bourbon Road, that's who we use. Janie and Carson and the team there at Premium Bar Products will take care of you. They'll treat you like family, and they'll take care of you with every order.
All right, listeners, we're back. We're here at Jephthah Ben Farm in Shelbyville, Kentucky. I like to say that, Jim, like that.
Yeah.
Shelbyville, Kentucky.
And you move up on the mic like that, it sounds real, like, very white. Like.
So we got Todd
Sure.
Ritter, Roadie in the house. We got Matt Simons. We got Diane Evans, one of my neighbors across the street. Lovely lady in the room. We got Steve Johnson's a Roadie. We got the famous Rob Carter, as I like to call him, Mr. Papa Smurf.
Mr. Papa Smurf.
Bleeds Kentucky Blue. And we got Abby in the room with us, all Roadies. Yeah. We're drinking some bourbon. The bourbon has been flowing, right, Jim?
It has been flowing. We got Woodrow on the floor. He's got his front legs crossed.
Oh,
you heard
no.
me say his name.
He's out now.
Yeah.
So we've been going through 5 bourbons to start your bar with while we're sipping on Old Forester 150, courtesy of Todd Ritter.
Todd, can't thank you enough, my friend.
Thank you,
My
Todd.
pleasure. Like I said, you guys you do a lot for the bourbon community, so this is my giving back to you a little bit.
So, Todd, we went through your list. Amazing list.
Thank you.
Great list start. Then we did the rye guy, Jim's list.
There's only one rye on there, though, Jim.
Yeah,
very
only one,
good.
right?
Very good.
You threw a weeder in there.
I did throw
Throw a
a
weeder in there.
I wouldn't have shamed you if you didn't know.
Yeah. Budget list. Right?
Budget list.
Yeah.
Economic.
So next up, we got a big 7 in here in the house. Matt Simons is going to go through his list.
You ruined about 2 weeks of my life, Big Chief. Well, we were texting about, say, hey, join us on the show, and I appreciate that, and 5 bourbons to start a home bar. Oh, that's easy. And I thought, all right, so Todd, kind of like you, I thought, there's categories to this stuff, right? So there's got to be a house whiskey, right? One you don't mind mixing. And now that I think about it the way you thought about it, I think my house whiskey might be a little too high line. I thought about, of course, Old Forester, right? And then you've got Old Granddad Bottled in Bond. I mean, that's
a good one. Yeah.
I mean, that's a great one, right? But our house whiskey at our house, is the reason I put this on there, is Evan Williams Single Barrel, and it's at $28. in 27, depending on where you're at, it's not unapproachable at all, but it's not exactly just your gut mixer. You know what I mean? At $20, I like the, Old Granddad, bottled in bond, but I'm going to stay with Evan Williams single barrel.
That's a respectable bottle to me. Not too high priced. It's a beautiful little bottle to put on your shelf, single barrel. Still low proof though, not high proof. So, I think that's good.
Well, you're not going to get any high proof bourbons on here because I grew up with some old boys that taught me, they said, hey, party's long, right? And so, try to keep it under 105 or so. But we typically drink bourbons that are between, 86 and 110 in general, unless I'm hanging with Big Chief. And then I got to stretch my legs a little bit. I polled some friends and I said, hey, I got a lot of bourbon drinking friends. I was like, and I gave them the same question. I was just curious what would come out of that. A couple of them are sitting here. But almost unanimously out of that list was a bourbon that I didn't have on my list. And it was Woodford Double Oaked. Almost everybody said if I was starting a home bar, I would have Woodford Double Oaked. And the more I've thought about it, for me, and Jim, when you mentioned it, for me, it's like a dessert drink, because it's sweet, it's really good. And so I just kind of pigeonholed it, I think maybe. But as I've drank it more, it's approachable, and if someone is not a big bourbon drinker and they're over at the house and they're like, I'll try a little bit of that bourbon. You got a bourbon collection. I think Double Oaked is a good one. So I'm going to stick with that. It's number 2. Now is where it gets tricky. I thought you should have a bottle that you can only get at a distillery.
Oh, now there's something.
You can only get at a distillery. It's something to talk about.
Yeah,
because bourbon's about
different
stories.
Approach.
Yeah, it's about stories. It's about where'd you get it? How'd you find it? What do you like about it? And I also had this similar thought of if I'm a Kentucky boy, and I thought, and you can't start a bourbon bar without some makers, right? I mean, it's just, it is for what it is. Great marketing, whatever you want to call it. It's a good Kentucky bourbon. So I went with Makers 101. You can, not that you can't only get it at the distillery because they'll release it during Christmas and things like that, but most of the time you only get that at the distillery. So I went with Makers 101. I like that bourbon too, personally. I think that the extra higher proof does something for the makers because they tell you in the tour and the story that they wanted to create a bourbon that was easy to drink, and they have. But I like a little more, to my bourbon. Does that sound,
Yeah.
And 101's got a little more, to it. Not that it's that's crazy. So that was in there. Now
I'm glad to hear Makers made the list. I really think probably had I made another list, Makers would have probably been on it. It's some expression of Makers anyway, right?
It should have made the list.
Yeah, I just got a finishing series, so that might make my list next year if we're for episode 200 or something. Who knows?
I mean, Maker's cast strength is great. I mean, there's some really, they're when you just get out of the normal Maker's Mark, which is a worldwide brand, and by the way, known in languages that we can't even pronounce.
Yeah,
But for me, it was the 101, right? So number 3 was the 101. Now I thought, Jim, that you should have a rye on the list. Right?
Yeah, well, we think alike. Yeah.
I thought you should have a rye because, once again, you're saying, hey, I just started my bourbon bar. I have Evan Williams Single Barrel, a nice, affordable bourbon. I have Woodford Double Oaked for anybody. It tastes great. This one, I had to drive to BFE, Kentucky to get. It's called Makers 101, and it's a Kentucky tradition. I went with Michter's Rye on that. I just think Michter's Rye for the price and for the it's not the greatest rye whiskey in the world because rye heads, really like to get it in there and get it peppery and get it hot, But I think Michter's Rye is approachable. Pikesville Rye made the list. I mean, I think Pikesville Rye has done a good job. You get that grain, when you're tasting it, so good. But I went with Michter's Rye.
Well, Michter's is a great choice. It's a solid Kentucky rye. Now Pikesville, a little bit higher proof though, right?
Yeah, it is.
Kind of makes that big impression on you because of that more proof. But Michter's solid.
So let's recap. What do you got so far?
So far, I got Evan Williams Single Barrel, Woodford Double Oak, Maker's 101, and Michter's Rye.
All right, but not Pikesville. That wasn't on your list.
No, that was just also ran. I
Okay.
wanted to mention
All right.
that I enjoy that bourbon.
But he narrowed it down to one, which is good.
I narrowed it down to one. Now, this last one, this was an MFer, as they say. I mean, I wrestled with it. I'm going to mention several bourbons here, like the Grammys.
All right.
All right. There was Weller's Special. All right. First of all, this is like, all right, so you got to get a nice, in the collection, you have something that's like a nice bourbon, hard to find, like, oh, I'm really doing something here. I didn't think of Old Forester 150 because I've never seen it till today. Thanks, Todd Ritter. But I was thinking like Weller's Special Reserve. Now, this one's approachable. You can find it anywhere, but a great bourbon, Old Forester 1920.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, a great bourbon. Russell Reserve Single Barrel, or Eagle Rare, a great bourbon. But after talking with a few friends of mine and all that, I think you got to throw the Weller Special Reserve as your, just kind of your, just a good, a hard to find bourbon, right? You could throw Antique on there, which good luck. Really, with the way the Weller's, good luck. But the Special Reserve for me personally, the reason I put it on there because people said different Wellers, but I like the Special Reserve. It's approachable. It's if you can find it out of state, you can sometimes get it for $40, and it's good work. It's a good bourbon.
And if you're pouring Weller off your bar for your friends,
yeah,
they're all going to be happy.
Yeah.
$25 in Oklahoma.
Good choice.
It's on the shelf all day long there. To me, that's the granddaddy of all weeded bourbon. He knew what he was doing. If you're drinking Pappies out there and you think you're all special, you wouldn't have any Pappies without William LaRue Weller, right? He's it when it comes to weeded bourbon. You wouldn't have Larceny. You wouldn't have Old Fitz. You wouldn't have your Pappies. I could just go down that list.
Well, since you mentioned Pappies, and we're not talking about that, but here's the deal. Listen, we're all kinds of different bourbon collectors out there, and those look great on the bar, right? But for me, Old Rip, is more approachable even for my palate. Because I've had Pappy 23 many times, and I'm like, it's like the Dogfish Head 120-minute IPA. They got the 60-minute IPA. It's good beer. 90-minute, really good beer. 120, it's like, oh, that's complicated. It's like a relationship.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so to recap, Evan Williams Single Barrel, Woodford Double Oak. I'm going to go with the Michter's Rye, Maker's 101, and the Weller Special Reserve.
Solid list.
Yep, nice.
Good Lord. I got some competition here now. This is turning heated right here. But he took my Weller Special Reserve. Jim, you knew I was probably going to have that on my list.
I knew it was going to be on there.
It was going to be on my list, but I'm recalculating here, right?
Make a U-turn when possible.
It's okay to have a bourbon show up on more than one list. We both had the double oak.
I was going to say, and we expected 5 ryes from Jim, so we're expecting 5 wheats from you, Big Chief.
Well, I'm not going to go with five wheats.
I bet you could do it, though.
It's me. Oh, I could easily.
Your top 5 weeded bourbons.
I could easily go 5 weeded bourbons and enjoy myself all day long if people know me right. But this is how I went, right? I'm going to start off with Maker's 46. You can find it on any shelf.
Yep.
It's a little bit more complex than just your Makers. It was the first bourbon released from after 46 years from them, right? Or 50 years, right, Jim? It was 50 years. The 46 is the stave combination. But 50 years of making one bourbon, and that's all they made forever, right? Nothing else, just Makers. But 46 to me, if you can get it on your shelf. Now I throw a caveat in there. Obviously, me and Jim love the cast strength.
It did fare pretty well for us last year.
Yeah. Just our bourbon of the year. I don't know. But if you can find that cast strength, you're probably not going to find it. But the 46th, pick up a bottle. I think it's a great bottle to start your bar with. Right around $35. That's pretty respectable. I like it. It's a weeded bourbon. Obviously, I'm a weeded king in Kentucky. I love my weed. I'd go with Weller Special Reserve all day long. Just because it's 90 proof, easy drinker, I can mix it and stuff too and just smile about it. I'll go and find myself another bottle of Special Reserve if I need it bad enough. Am I going to pay $200 for it? Hell no. I'm going to stick around that $25 level for it. That's what I think it deserves. But it's a good mixer. It's a good sipper. It's a wheat. But still, 46, that's my first bourbon, number one. Good to start your bar with. My second bourbon I would go with is a Woodinville out of Washington State. They're 90 proof. I think it is a delicious whiskey all day long. They're still kind of a craft, right? They're rising up. They're nationwide now.
They're making a few barrels.
Just a couple. And the damn.
Do you have some here? I haven't had it before. Maybe I should.
I have some up on the shelf over there. If you look,
maybe I should try it.
Yeah,
They got some phenomenal picks too.
yeah, they're cast strength. Again, another cast strength whiskey that will just blow your socks off. Great company out there doing great things. I think if you're looking for a craft distillery, and I'm going to have a couple craft distilleries on my list. So, but that's nationwide. You can pick it up anywhere. Don't overlook it because it's out of the state of Kentucky, Rob Carter.
Hey, man, if it ain't made with limestone water from right here in Kentucky, I ain't drinking it.
So my number 3 bourbon on the list. I really like it. Some people hit on it a little bit. I like Russell's 10-year.
Dude, I almost dropped that in there.
It's like cherry juice in a bottle for me.
It's so good.
Got a little bit of spice to it. Some people like the Russell's Reserve over that. But to me, that Russell's 10-year, you could almost let anybody drink it. They love it. My wife, she's not a bourbon drinker, but she likes it. She says, hey, that's a good bourbon. Comes out of Wild Turkey, right?
It does. Yeah.
Name for the legendary Jimmy Russell. How could you go wrong with it?
But when you're here's the thing about this. There's levels. Bourbon's like an onion, right? There's layers to this, and there's what you like, which is at the core. But when you're introducing friends or lady friends and just different people, you got to have those in your collection because not everybody wants to go 120 proof Magnum face, here we go bourbon. The Russell 10 is great because it has, like you said, it's like cherries in the glass. It's so good. And it's got just a soft aftertaste. So good.
And it's 10 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, it's $35, people. $35 for a 10-year-old whiskey. I see other bottles out there that are 10 years old. People are paying $200 for. How can you go wrong? So you'll notice all 3 of my bourbons there are $35. You can buy Woodinville, $35. Russell Reserve 10, $35. Get the 46, $35. I mean, I'm just rolling along there, right?
So now here comes a $350.
No, probably not. A lot of people that listen to the show, you listen to us. We have a lot of finished bourbons on the show, and I pay some respect to Lincoln Henderson and his son Wes. I would have a bottle of Angel's Envy on my shelf, right around $35, right?
Yeah.
The $35 theme.
$35 theme. Well, I'm going to blow it out of the water here in a minute, but
It's allowed.
so the thing with that is they might get beat up, but that's another great bourbon or finished bourbon to introduce people to whiskey because it's finished in that port wine barrel. It takes a little bit of the edge off, gives it a little bit of sweetness. You could get a wine drinker to drink some of that and introduce them to whiskey. And all you're helping to do is promote Kentucky whiskey or promote bourbon across the board. Beautiful bottle to have on your shelf too.
Gorgeous bottle. Yeah.
I hear some people beat up on it and be like, oh, I don't like that. It's not a bourbon. Well, it's bourbon right up until they finished it. Really, it's still bourbon. It was just finished in something.
Yeah.
So, and their labeling's correct on it. They say this is a finished bourbon, right?
Right.
I mean, I got several bottles of Angel's Envy. I obviously love them. And Wes and his family, great people, right?
Awesome people. Great family. True Louisvillians, dedicated to the bourbon industry, the bourbon trail, dedicated to Louisville, Kentucky.
So just to recap, I got 46, right? I got Woodinville whiskey, Russell 10-year, and Angel's Envy port cast. Now, what do you think old Texan's going to finish with?
Oh,
I don't know.
Something from Texas.
Old Texas
So
whiskey.
you're at $140 now.
Yeah, I'm about to blow it up right there. At $120, if you can find it, buy a bottle of Garrison Brothers Balmorhea. It is a double oaked wheated bourbon. Comes in at 115 proof. It's a gorgeous bottle to have on your shelf, and the whiskey inside the bottle is even better. I'm sipping on some right now because I didn't want to drink the last year 150th there. Now some people would beat up on
Somebody's
this.
got to do it.
Yeah, this bourbon's only 3 years old, but it's as dark. It's as dark as you get anything in Kentucky,
And complex.
and complex.
You go to 4, 5, and 6 years old in Texas, and you got nothing left in the barrel.
Yeah,
Well, we were telling a story. Todd and I were talking during the break there, and I was in New Orleans at a little swanky restaurant entertaining some clients a couple of years ago, and there was a salesman, a whiskey salesman, talking to the owner, and I could hear it going on, but he was from Texas, and I was like, Texas whiskey, what is he talking about? And so I go there and I was like, I'm from Kentucky and I can be the judge of good bourbon. Let me have a swig of your whiskey. And not in that voice. And anyway, I was like, hey, I'm very interested in what you're talking about from Texas. And actually they said, no, sit down. We'd love to have you. And they poured that. And the other one that you have, no, actually not the other one you have because that's the honey one. But they have like a regular, and then they have this one, and they were excellent. I mean, I thought, wow, this is really good.
they get beat up on their price, right? That's the biggest thing they say about Dan Garrison and his whiskey is it's overpriced. But man, I don't know if it is overpriced or not. I like it. This is actually my second bottle of Balmorhea. I love it that much. If I could get Dan to send me another bottle of it, so I don't have to go out and find a bottle.
Dan, are you listening?
But it to me, it is a great representation. I had a hard time picking a Texas whiskey because I'm infatuated with Texas whiskeys right now. I could say Iron Root. I could say Tau Carroll. We just drank that, right, Jim?
TX.
Yeah, TX. I could just keep
Iron
going down
Root.
that list. Iron Root, Balcones, Jimmy's Bourbon. You could just go down that list and say, man, all these damn Texas bourbons are kicking my socks. I've actually only had one Texas bourbon that I didn't like.
Which one?
I'm not going to tell you. You'll have to figure it out for yourselves, people. So I'd say if you're in your mindset and you're just like, I'm from Kentucky and only bourbons can come from Kentucky, it would not be America's native spirit if you couldn't have bourbon from other states. And people are like, well, limestone's only in Kentucky. Well, there's a limestone county, Texas, with a whole courthouse built out of limestone.
There's an Apple Valley, California, and there's not apples or valleys. What I was getting to is that, listen, the thing is, I love that sentiment. And to be honest with you, you have reinforced that for me. And this is just in the last few months that we've been talking about this. I was just, because it's popular. It's easy to say, right? It's like, I'm from Kentucky, and only whiskey bourbon comes from Kentucky with limestone. And here's the thing about it. That just doesn't proliferate the spirit. And I love it that people from Washington and Texas and Kansas and Indiana and Florida, wherever they are, New York, are producing bourbon whiskeys, because bourbon only has to be 51% corn, right? In the mash bill to be a bourbon. And I love that. And you know what? That pays homage to us, or homage, as they say, because the people that created this spirit created a very good thing. It tastes good. It feels good. It brings people together for conversations. It leads to podcasts. But no, seriously, and I love that. And to just try to pigeonhole it is wrong.
What do you think, Todd? I mean, you had a couple crafts on your.
Yeah. I mean, my eyes, like, seriously, like in the last 2 or 3 years, have really opened to, you know, I'm a Frankfurt guy. Buffalo Trace has been there for years. Of course, it was Ancient Age and et cetera, et cetera. So it's really eye opening to see all this other stuff come in from other states. And I mean, there's a certain flavor to each of them. Like there's that Texas bourbon flavor. I've not had anything other than Spirits of French Lick from Indiana, but it's got a very distinct flavor that's different than Kentucky.
Well, you've had some MGP.
Yeah, I mean MGP. I could almost do it blind. If you poured me some MGP, I could almost nail it. I think it's very distinct. But you know, Tennessee, it's a totally different flavor coming from there too. And I think you hear that terroir coming from wine, and you know you hear it about bourbon. I think it's very factual. I think there's some good stuff just coming from all over the place.
Well, I think our podcast, we try to show that and our love for each region as a region for like different whiskeys. Some people say they don't like Scotch. Well, I'm like, open your eyes up to what Scotch is and what region it comes from. Same thing with Irish whiskey. There's some great Irish whiskeys out there, but you got to open your eyes up. Drink it right first off. Don't just shoot it back and say, you know, whiskey making isn't just from Kentucky. Bourbon is just not from Kentucky. I picked Texas because it is my home state and I have a love for them and stuff. But I would, you know, for this episode today, I tried to put 78 bourbons out on the shelf over there, and I think I got another 70 on the wall up there for people to try. And what I said when everybody came in, hey, try something you haven't tried before, a bottle that me and Jim have got to try and got to love, and we've opened our eyes up.
Yeah, I tried to go there and find one I hadn't had. But it just so happens these are all the ones off the shows we did. So
there might be one or two over there that.
That's why I brought you one, Jim.
You did.
Yeah.
Jim, what's that one you gave me that was the Bourbon of the Year thing? That was
Iron Root Harbinger 115.
That was so good.
It's magical.
People, when I tell people that, they're like, "You're lying," and I'm like, "I'm not lying." They really did beat out Rebel Yell 10 Year, which I got a bottle of Rebel Yell 10 Year up on a shelf, and I think both of them. I could see where the judges probably struggle with that, but both a weeded bourbon. Might be a thing there. I don't know, but a good representation of Texas bourbon and what can come out of Texas. But there's stuff from Arkansas over there, from Colorado, from Mississippi. From Washington State, from Oregon. I was trying to think what else is over. Indiana's on there. Ohio's on the shelf over there. Virginia, West Virginia. I could just go down that list and say all these states over there. Iowa's over there on the shelf. So have I opened up my eyes? I've opened up my eyes, especially since we started the podcast, 150 shows, right?
Yeah.
I
get excited every time there's a bourbon I haven't tried. I mean, every time there's a new craft distillery, I really want to try it. I mean, you can show me that, you can tell me you're going to buy me any whiskey off a bar, but if I look up there and I see a craft bottle or something new I haven't tried, I'm going for that before I go for some big boy. I just am, because I'm excited. It's like opening a present. It's like opening a gift. You know, you get to try something new and different, and it's exciting for me. I mean, I really do get excited about it.
Yeah, we went to the bar one night, and we're here in town, and they said, "Hey, you guys can try anything you want off the shelf," right? And they had some big boys up there, and Jim's like, "I'll try that Casey Jones. I haven't had it before."
Driving that train.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I think you're that spot on, Jim.
Yeah,
it's exciting to get to taste.
By the way,
new.
how was that Casey Jones?
It was very respectable. I think it was. Now it's just a simple bourbon.
Yeah,
it doesn't have a lot of layer to it, but it was well done. It was well crafted. It had a good flavor. It was fine. It was fine. Didn't have anything that kind of blew me away, but I respected it.
Well, 150 shows, Jim.
150.
Congratulations. Not a lot of people get to that 150th.
Cheers to you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
It's been a good ride.
Todd, Matt, we appreciate you coming on the show today, telling some stories, sharing your bourbon list with everybody. Kind of proving that there's a little bit of everything on the shelf. I'd said it last week that somebody said we had a little bit of snobbery, right? Which I don't think we do. I mean, I got old granddad over there on the shelf, and
it's one of my favorite. I mean, listen, if you took a 365-day tour of my life, I probably drink old granddad bonded more than others. A, because it's good. B, because it's $20 and it's approachable. I just love the little kind of a hint of that zest, orange zest that's got in there. And of course with the, caramel and oak and all that, but it's a great bourbon.
Yeah. I would tell our listeners out there, if you do think we're being snobbery, we're not. Just hang with us for a couple episodes, listen to those episodes through. You'll see that we try to touch all bases and stuff. Me and Jim just can't drink the same bourbon every day.
Well, not only that, but we're highlighting a lot of craft distilleries and a lot of special releases, right? Mm-hmm. So we've got bottles that typically run a little bit higher dollar number on them, simply because they're coming from a small outfit that's putting out just a few barrels and they got to make money, or we're doing special releases because people really want to showcase something special. So yeah, sometimes it might seem like we're kind of reaching up to the top shelf a little bit every now and then, but we try to keep it real.
We do.
And here's the thing, being a roadie, I've learned, if you see something out there that somebody's trying, I guarantee if you ask, hey, you mind if I try a sample of that? It's going to go out the door and it'll be in your mailbox in 3 or 4 days. Yeah. Somebody will take care of you. I mean, I should buy stock in those little Boston round glasses because I literally just bought a case of 80. I've gone through so many. I like sharing.
Angel delivery.
Yeah.
Angel delivery.
Todd, what's your phone number?
After the show.
But that's what the bourbon culture is about, is sharing your whiskey, opening your damn bottles. It's not a whiskey collection. It's supposed to be open bottles that everybody can enjoy, introduce people to new whiskeys out there. Every time I get a whiskey, I don't only want to put it on a podcast. I want to share it with as many people as possible. It's like a spider web, just throwing that spider web out there and catching some flies.
Big Chief, I'm glad you said that though too, because I'm glad you keep saying the word whiskey, because bourbon is whiskey.
Yeah.
It's a style of whiskey. Scotch is whiskey. Jameson Black, by the way, it's my favorite, is whiskey. It's a whiskey, and it's made by people in different regions of the country, and that's what we're really celebrating. We love the bourbon style. We love that 51% corner better, but we love whiskey, and that's what's really important.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, we'd like to give you the opportunity to let our listeners know if they want to reach out to you and say, "Hey, why did you pick those 5 bourbons?" Or they want to. How do they get a hold of you? Where are you at on Facebook, Instagram, whatever your social media of choice is?
I'm Todd Ritter at Facebook. If you just want to see a lot of pictures of young kids, that's pretty much what I use that for. I did just start a kind of a bourbon page on Instagram, and it's called The Dripping Barrel. So you can reach out to me there. I kind of use it to highlight some of the bourbon podcasts and YouTubers out there and just kind of show what I'm sipping on occasion.
And you're a regular in the Roadies.
I am a regular in the Roadies, and I love it. It's a lot of fun.
I appreciate the invitation. I'm not going to wow you with anything bourbon wise. I'm just Matt Simons on Facebook. And if you want to see pictures of Jeep rides or good food, because I cook a lot, you can follow me there. But, here's the deal. I'm the founder of the Christian Jeep Association. So believe it or not, Christians can also enjoy bourbon. And I also enjoy Jeeps. So if you have a Jeep, and you like bourbon, maybe you could come to Christian Jeep Association, but on any other social media platforms, you won't find me out there. I'm usually behind the scenes, just doing my thing.
Not on Big and 7 Foot on Instagram.
I do have DJ 7 Foot on Instagram, and I'm just not very active, and that's why I didn't promote it. I throw out some scripture pictures every now and then, and some pictures of some food I've done. But I'm not, it's funny. I had somebody recently come up to me and said, "Hey, I want to get you for a party I'm having. I want to have you come play some music. I'm a musician, and I want to have you cook for me." And I was like, well, when I'm playing the music, that takes 2 hands. And the food also takes 2 hands. I don't have 4 hands. So how do you picture that working? Anyway, long story short, but also you can find me at DJ Matt Simons on Facebook. You can find me at Matt Simons Music on Facebook. I do DJ and play live guitar. And so I'm a little bit of a guy out there in the entertainment industry. I appreciate the platform for that. But no, nothing bourbon related. I'm just a guy that enjoys bourbon and enjoys the company of these guys here.
Awesome. Well, you can find the Bourbon Road on all social medias at the Bourbon Road. You can also find us on the web. We have a website called thebourbonroad.com. Mike, what can they find on the website?
So you can find our articles about each episode on there for long episodes like today. You can also find our reviews on there. You can find our bourbon swag, the Bourbon Bullshitter t-shirt, which I'm rocking right now. Abby's rocking one too. You got to get yourself one of those. We're going to have our Bourbon Road shirt on there. Our Bourbon Glencairns from Distillery Products and PremiumBarProducts.com. You want to check them out if you want some bourbon glasses. You can get our Bourbon Road hat on there. That's what you can find on there, Jim.
Absolutely. Well, we do have a private Facebook group, and you've heard us mention it a couple times during the show today, called the Bourbon Roadies. If you go to our Facebook page and you click on groups, you will see the Bourbon Roadies. And we just ask a couple of questions. We want to make sure that you realize you're getting yourself into a bourbon group, that you're 21, old enough to drink, therefore talk about it. And 3, that you agree to play nice and you're not going to be a bully. Right, Mike?
Well, we just don't tolerate any rudeness. That's something I can't
cotton that.
I just can't deal with it.
Nope,
Can't cotton that. That's what they say, right?
Can't cotton it.
Just don't knock for somebody down for what they're drinking. If they were drinking Jim Beam White Label, that's what they want to drink. They're drinking Jack Daniel's whiskey. They want to come in there and talk to us. Let them do it. Say, hey, welcome to the group. I'm glad you joined. Here's some other bourbons you might enjoy.
All right. We do 2 shows a week. We do a short episode where we kind of focus on a craft distillery. We do about a 15-minute review, pretty quick thing. And then we do a long episode like today's episode where we have some guests on and we really do a deep dive. We would love to have you listen to both episodes every week. Check us out. Give us a review. Subscribe, right, Mike?
Subscribe. So, man, Jim, I'd have to say this, man. 150 shows. Listeners, thanks for hanging around with us. I know we can be a lot of the time, but 150 shows, Jim. Congratulations.
Thanks, Mike. Congratulations.
You are the creator of this monster we've created, right?
It's a monster.
But damn, it's been a fun ride. 150 shows. I can't wait to get to 300 shows. I don't know. There's no bourbon company out there 300 years old, so I don't know. We'll drink some scotch.
Is there an Old Forester 300, by the way? Could you invite me back for that
now? All right. Well, we'd love to hear your thoughts. If you've got an idea for a show or a bottle and you'd like to have us do a review or talk to somebody you think is worthy of our time, we'd love to hear about it. You can reach out to me on Instagram at jshannon63.
I'm One Big Chief.
And we will see you down
the Bourbon Road.